Hello and welcome back for today's update. So I've managed to achieve a number of things on stream today. We'll come back to this art in a second, but what I managed to achieve that I'm quite pleased with is the Hermitage item. So the idea with the Hermitage is that it's an object you can only build if you have the specialist, a special type of VIP or dignitary called the Hermit, who will go and live in this Hermitage for the rest of their lives in complete silence, is the idea. The challenge with that is that it meant I had to tie together the specialists with the buildings list. And what I ended up doing was updating this specialist list. So in the global settler manager object, we have an object that's going to store the counts for these particular specialists and make them available. So we always refer to this when we want to know who is available to build. We always refer to this when we want to know what specialists do we have on the building? Do we have an archer? Do we have a cobbler, etc.? So that lives as a separate object. It's updated by this script here, which basically runs through all the different specialists in the global list and populates into this list here. In addition, I then added a couple of things that say, well, take into account the buildings on the island. So, for example, if there already is a hermitage and we have a hermitage specialist, that means we have one hermit available who can be assigned to a particular cell. And maybe I'll end up building a thing that says, each hermit, this is the particular location they live in. Don't particularly planning it at the moment. So built that in, that's working. The other thing I had to do was to say, well, if we're tying buildings and specialists together, that means every time we get a new specialist in, that might open up new building options. So what this does is go through every hex and update the building options to include anything that's new coming on the specialist list, such as the hermitage. So that was great. That was a good half hour's work. After that, I rolled the wheel to development and ended up on bug fix, which is quite a thing. So I ended up trying to fix this bug that had been in the game for ages that I hadn't been hitting. What I found was that it was this script. This script had been put in the outside location. I'm not going to go into detail about it because it gets quite complicated. Basically, the important thing to understand is this script was in the wrong location, and I was able to identify that by using GMS's built-in sort of stopper tool. So what this red dot will do is when you execute the code, when it gets to this point, it'll pause the code, and you can step through things piece by piece by piece, and it's really convenient. I ended up having sort of 6 different stopping points along here that was able to let me really get into what exactly this piece of code was doing and to work out that this script was in the wrong place. That was the cause of the defect. That took about an hour, but I'm really pleased with that because that defect has been in there for about a month on my list to do. But it's sorted now. And then the last thing I did was just to import some new art assets. So I haven't got these working in game, but I was really pleased with the work. I mean, my brother's done some great artwork. It's only provisional, and as I understand it, these are actually images of horses to which antlers have been added. But this is just a sort of deer pen where we're keeping some deer. They'll be housed in here. I imagine you might have a family living in this. It's a very basic place in the 17th century. So anyway, just thought I'd end on a bit of nice artwork for you. So thank you very much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow.